Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to another Primal The Awakening unboxing. This is for the Venom Expansion. So this is the one of the 3 extra expansions that add new elements to the game. Venom for this one, obviously. Then there's Ice and Feather. Definitely you can come back, check all these out. So we're gonna go over the new equipment. So we have new equipment for all the base characters, the 4 base ones, plus new armor and accessories and stuff like that. We have some new tokens, some terrain items in there. The swamps we're going to look at, the new forges, the 2 new monsters, of course. At the end of the video, we'll go over some campaign exclusive content, like we'll have like the extra unlock stuff. So we'll do those, but I will make sure I list a spoiler warning before we do that in case you don't want those revealed. You can go ahead and click the video before those pop up. Yeah, we're gonna definitely jump into this. This does not have any of the equipment or item for the 2 extra hunters. All their Venom stuff will be in their box. That's why I'm doing, if you're watching these in order as I release them, that's why they come after the extra expansions, because all their stuff will be in there. I wanted to go through all the different new elements before we brought those up. So we're going to go ahead and hop right into this. So if we grab the booklet here, the Venom Expansion, going to show all our new stuff we have, of course. We have some new keywords and terrain. So I'm going to look at the terrain first. We have swamp. If you watch the ice video, we already mentioned this before because it was talked about in there. It says this swamp, which will have some swamp tokens here. Say when you pay the stamina cost for a dodge card, if you're in a circular swamp terrain, increase that cost by 1. So you're gonna get murky stuck in there, so it's gonna make moving around harder. Other things that are gonna come up, we'll go over these a little bit more when we get to them, are Venom cards, Venomous serpents, and Thorn Vine tokens for the monsters, and we'll look at them when we get to their cards. There's of course a campaign mode in here. This is just the additional stuff from the base game campaign. And we did talk about it in the campaign video. There might be certain times you unlock quests that are specific to the expansion. These are just those quests. They're going to be added in there. Then you just grab so if it says go to, campaign 41, you grab this book instead. It has all the new campaign information. So it's saying we're going to the Endless Swamp. Quest scenarios, and it'll have each different one in there. So like 41, then you open up this. It'll tell you what you're doing in there, have all your different conclusions, all that stuff in there, your end story, all that fun stuff. This is also interesting because it has 1 extra quest for Toramat. So it has 2 for each of the new monsters, plus it has a new Toramat quest, which is kind of like, I think, an updated version of one of its old ones. We have our rewards and expansions, and all that stuff. Just adds on to the additional campaign book. So you check these out for that. Cool, so we have that. Then we also have our 4 expedition. So we're gonna play against Hydar, who's our dragon of this set. He's like a grass dragon type guy. We have his 2 expeditions. Notice one has swamps, one doesn't. And then we have Reikal, our snake, or our Ouroboros, who has swamps all the time. There's some fog too, which is crazy. Yes, we have those 2 expeditions, so you can play those as well. So cool. Let's go ahead and hop in. Let's look at our forge quick. If I can grab this. So we have our brand new Venom forges. We have 3 levels, of course. What they'll do, we have the 4 new weapons, 2 armor pieces, and 2 extra items, which we're going to go over. But yeah, you get your extra forges. So if you just have the core game and you pick this up, you can go ahead and add all these in when you unlock them. Let's look at some items. Ding, ding, ding. We're going to start with the Great Sword for Daron. And we'll see what these do. How they incorporate Venom into their weapons. This is kind of neat. It has like scales on it. Cobra. So it's 5, 5, 4, and 6. It's going to rely a little bit more on dodging. So it's kind of interesting because we had the swamp, which made you pay more for dodging, and then these guys are going to want you to dodge more. So Venom might play around with the dodging abilities some, so we'll see. 4 damage, if you play a green and a blue, deal 1 damage for each red in your discard pile. That's kind of neat. So if you play a lot of red and you follow it up by this, like in a later turn, you could end up doing some cool damage. Level 2. Oh, look at that. It's going to get these like green crystals. There's actually a skull on the handle now. That wasn't there before. Plus like some fangs on the blade. Numbers stayed the same though. Sometimes they change. So play green and blue, deal 3 damage for each red in your discard pile. And it does 7 damage normally. And Cobra level 3. Oh, look at that. That's wicked. It's dripping venom. It has more skulls all over it. Now it just deals 5 damage for each red in your discard pile. If this inflicts a wound, inflict vulnerable. That's kind of cool. So that kind of like acts as like a poison effect almost, right? I think that's supposed to be the idea of like, right? You've done damage to him already with the red cards. So by playing a dodge and a maneuver, you're kind of like enacting poison on him. I'm guessing that's kind of supposed to be the idea behind it. Without it exactly being called poison. Alright, for Mira's bow, we have the Spider Needle. So 6, 4, 5, and 5. So she gets a little more attack, but a little bit even than the other thing. It says at the start of your turn, volley 1. Just as a reminder of what volley does, because we probably haven't seen it since the her video. Volley says, discard X cards from the top of your deck to deal damage to the monster equal to your weapon level for each offensive card discarded this way. So yeah, kind of neat. Like, right, she gets to, you get discard 1 card at the beginning of your turn. If it's a attack card, I think it doesn't matter if it's red or blue. Yeah, just an offensive card. And she's going to be playing more red. So you have the potential every turn to do an extra 4 damage, which isn't bad at all. Her upgraded one, ooh, look at that. Those little fangs already become green poisony. That little spider needle. Yeah, spider needle. I was going to say spider-like tendrils on them, but yeah, they're spider needles. Cool. So start volley 2. The monster suffers a wound, deal 2 damage for each red in your discard pile. Nice, because then you're also discarding for volleys, so you might get more of them in there, and then as you do damage to them, or it suffers a wound finally, you might potentially get more. Again, this is kind of playing on that poison idea, right? If they're taking a wound, but they have you already have a bunch of red cards in there, it's like that poison kicking and doing some extra damage to them. That's cool. And then level 3 Spider Needle actually becomes purple. That's I love that. That looks awesome. Volley 3 suffers 3 damage for each red in your discard pile. That's pretty cool. For Thorg, we have the Hammer, Dragon Bane. Big giant like stone hammer with a giant axe on the side and a green gem. 6, 5, 4, and 5. So a little less parry. But if you play a dodge and an attack, increase the damage of this attack. The attack deals by 1 for each blue in your discard pile. Ooh, so he gets a bonus for having maneuvers in there instead. It just makes his attack stronger. So if he kind of plans it out, he gets a better swing of it. Cool. This upgrade, you have a sharper blade. We have some skulls. The metal kind of just like the crystal like glowing into it. That's neat looking. To increase your damage by 3 for each blue in your discard pile. And then finally we get some dragon scales on there too. And some spikes on the front. That's pretty cool. And that says increase the damage by 5 for each blue in your discard pile. If this inflicts a wound, stun the monster. Nice. Alright, then for Hydar, the Serpent Shield. That's a neat look. That's a nasty looking sword. That's a neat looking shield with the snake skull on the front. 5, 5, 6, and 4. So he's gonna focus more on parry. So each one kind of focused on a different one for each group. So it's kind of to retaliate, red, deal 1 damage. So when you take damage, if you reveal a red card, you get to do damage back. Neat. Upgrade. Ooh, level 2. Look at that. Some scales on there. Some runes on the sword. The skull on there got bigger. Then some scales all over the shield. Some glowing eyes and gems. Retaliate red, deal 2 damage. Played a yellow and a red. Increase the damage the attack deals by 1 for each red in your discard pile. So cool. Again, we're kind of triggering that poison idea of having cards in there are going to do more damage. And then the last one, this just looks dope. I mean, look at that, like green down there. The gems kind of flow into it. The extra skulls. Retaliate for 3 damage. Increase the damage by 2 for each Ranger discard pile. If it inflicts a wound, remove 2 struggle. So you have one guy that does struggle removal. One guy that's gonna stun if they do wounds. One person that is does extra, just kind of extra damage when they do a wound. And then the last one was inflict a vulnerable. So that's kind of fun. So they all have kind of ability. If they wound a guy with this, they do an extra effect, which is a really neat concept. Alright, those are our brand new weapons. Let's look at our new armor. Zoom in a little bit on that. We have the Iron Leaf armor. When you suffer an attack, you may search your discard pile for a red card and shuffle it into your deck. Not bad. And then we have 7 health on there. Then we upgrade it. It's going to get a little blade we've seen on some of the other weapons, some of the gems, some of that stuff incorporated into those. When you suffer an attack, you may search your discard pile for a red card, place it on top of your deck. And that's 12 defense. Now it goes right to your deck so you can use it more. Then we get the third one. Oh, look at that. They have skulls open. Some more dragons, or snake scales. When you suffer an attack, you may search your discard pile for a card of your choice and place it on top of your deck. And 17. That can be very helpful for setting up combos and stuff. Cool. The Iron Leaf Helm. Just a helmet wrapped in like a cloth. 5 health. When this monster suffers a wound, you may search your discard pile for a red card and shuffle it back into your deck. So it's kind of neat because, like, so the whole point of like lots of these Venom weapons is having red cards in your discard pile. That's what lots of them like to do. So this kind of makes sense when you deal the wound. When you start pulling some of these cards back out, then you're not gonna have to shuffle your discard. Your deck's not gonna run out as quick then, and then you're gonna be able to hopefully wound them again with a bunch more cards in there. And that's the idea, right? You're prolonging how long that poison's gonna be in there. Oh boy, look at that. Some snake scales on there and that giant blade in the front. Can I just run into a guy with this? The monster suffers a wound, you may search your discard pile for an offensive card, and place it on top of your deck. And that has 9 health. And then level 3 gets even crazier. Suffers a wound, you may search your discard pile for a card of your choice and add it to your hand. And 13 health. Those are pretty cool. So yeah, like combined together, if you get level 3s of both of these out, when you suffer a wound, you're going to go to your discard pile and put a card back on top of your deck. And when the monster suffers a wound, you're going to get to put a card back in your hand. So it's kind of neat effect depending on who's taking the damage. You're going to get cards back, which is pretty cool. Our item cards are the Bloodseeker at level 1. When you avoid attrition damage, deal 1 damage for each red in your discard pile. Yeah, so like our poisoning effect. At level 2, and these pictures don't change on these. You avoid attrition damage, deal 2 damage for each red card in your discard pile. And level 3 is deal 3 damage for each red in your discard pile. Yeah, so the Venom likes to have these red cards. So again, if you play with weapons or you have guys that are really discarding red cards a lot, these cards can do some really good damage. Backspin. So this is like a almost like a chakra. It looks like a chakram, or just a 3-bladed throwing weapon. When you empty your deck, you may reveal a green card from your hand to deal 4 damage. That's kind of neat. So you're going to eventually have to empty your decks anyhow. Plus, if you want more red cards in your discard pile, you're going to be going through them a lot. But you get an option to at least deal damage instead. You're going to still take damage, but you can deal some damage back. So level 2 says when you deal 5 damage for each green in your hand. Wait, that goes from if you deal A to do 4 damage to up to 5 for each green in your hand. That jumps up really quickly. And then the last one is when you empty your deck, deal 7 damage for each green in your hand. If this inflicts a wound, inflict vulnerable. So that kind of plays it with the weapons as well. You can inflict vulnerable to them. That is really cool. Alright, so the next thing we have before we jump to the monsters, we do have our 5 quests, because we have 2 for each new guy, plus that Tormat one. And we're going to hop right into our monsters. So I'm actually, usually I go creature first and then I do dragon second. But the creature one, Hydar, I think that's what his name is, or Reikal. Reikal has a bunch of extra things, so I want to look at him second. So we're going to go ahead and look at Hydar first. So he's like our kind of dragon creature. Again, he's more like a giant wizard, but I like to call him the dragon. So he has a weakness to fire, metal, and ice. And again, fire, because it looks like he's grass covered, makes sense there. Ice makes sense, I guess, because you can freeze him. Like, plants don't do well in really cold temperatures. Metal, just because it's unnatural, is my assumption on kind of what those are supposed to be for the weaknesses. Let's look at this guy. There he is. They gave him a base. Like, lots of these guys don't really have bases. They went a little crazy on him. He's on this, like, tree trunks. Got scales on him. They're supposed to be, like, flowers, right? So there's supposed to be flowers across his back. You can kind of see that in the picture. So, like, if he lays down, you'd probably just think he's, like, part of the ground. That's his stealthiness, right? I feel like he's going to have some good reaction effects just based on that. Like, he's going to be pouncing out of nowhere on you. I love the underside scales on him. That's really cool. Dope. Alright, let's take a look at his stuff. Alright, so we're going to start off with stance 1 for the prologue, which says he has 2 toughness and 1 attack. At the start of round 1, each player takes a Venom card from their reserve and places it on top of their discard pile. So we are going to have Venom cards. Each one will have a symbol on the back, so we have 3 for each core fighter. I didn't grab the last 3. So 3 for each core fighter. On the bottom, they're going to show his face to match it. These are for his deck versus the ones for Reikal, who also has some. I'm gonna grab these. So he also has a set of Venom cards. And why are they different? They probably do the exact same thing, but they have them separate because one might have a certain number, one might have another, or just you don't have to keep counting them up every time. They could have probably just made them have the same number. That wouldn't have made a difference. It says, this card can only be used to generate stamina. When you discard this card from your hand, suffer damage equal to your weapon level. So it's a poison, but it does have a stamina. So kind of like we have wound cards that don't do anything. In the core set we saw, I can't remember who it was. They had the ability cards, which messed up your sequence. They got played into your sequence immediately. This one can only be used for stamina, so at least you have an option of using it for something. The problem is as soon as it gets discarded, you have to suffer damage. So it's essentially clogging up your hand until you decide to get rid of it. So if you just hold it in your hand, yeah, it's great because you won't take damage, but at some point you're going to probably want that hand space back. So yeah, so start off the bat, each player takes 1 Venom, places it on top of their discard pile. So it'll take a while for you to get it back into your hand after play it, because you'll have to go into your deck is empty, then you'll shuffle it, and then you'll eventually find it, but it will eventually hit you. when we hit stance 2, revealed, each player takes a Venom card from the reserve and places it on top of their discard pile. So he's going to pop one out on stance 2, and then on stance 3, he's going to reveal, each player takes a Venom card from the reserve pile and places it on top of their deck. So by the time you hit stance 3, you'll have all 3 of your Venom cards. Imagine if you got all 3 of them in one hand and something made you discard your hand, right? For level 1, at the start of round 1, each player takes a Venom from their reserve pile, places it on top of their discard. And I guess these are all going to basically be the same, just with better stats. Venom card placed on top of their discard, and for stance 3, same thing. He just has more toughness and more damage. For level 2, they missed some text on there, so it's placed on top of their discard. So yeah, they just accidentally deleted some text down there. That happens. Each player takes a Venom card, places it on top of their discard, and then for stance 3, same thing. So yeah, all 3 are going to have the same thing. Usually, level 3 aggression usually has some different stuff, so we'll see if it changes. We have 18 toughness, 4 attack. Get that Venom card. Level stance 2, get the Venom card as well. And then let's see if the last one changes. Nope, same thing. So it's all his stances have to do. His stances at least don't do anything extra special to you. They just put them Venom in there. But that Venom is enough to be a pain, especially when you get 3 of them. Because there's probably not a lot of ways to get rid of it. But let's look at what our perils are. Wall of Thorns, permanent. When Hydar suffers a wound, place a Thornvine token in the aggro player's sector. There's already a Thornvine token in that sector. The aggro player suffers an attack instead. So we have these 4 Thornvine tokens. And do they do anything of in themselves? I don't know if they do. So we'll look at the... When placed on the board as a result of Hydar's ability, when you pay the stamina cost for an attack card appear in a sector of Thornvine, increase that attack by 1. So you kind of get trapped in there to do an attack or an offense if you have to pay extra. And then this is saying if there's already one there, they're going to also suffer damage. So, kind of interesting. What we're looking at, let's look at Venom cards. Ability instructs you to add a Venom card to your discard pile. Take the Venom card from your personal reserve, place it on top of the discard. Each player has a reserve identified by the class icon on the back. Similar to wounds, Venom cards clog up your action deck, making it less efficient. However, unlike wounds, they accumulate in your hand. The only way to get rid of them is to use them to generate stamina, but this will cause you to suffer damage. Okay, cool. So yeah, you're just going to sit in your hand, or you have to play them and take damage. Unless you have potentially something that lets you get rid of it. But if you have something that says discard a card, you have to discard. So like the only way to maybe get rid of it would be to like exile it from your deck, which Frost can do. But again, that's if you're mixing and matching stuff. Alright, what's the opposite side do? The harder difficulty. When it suffers a wound, place the Thornvine in the aggro sector. If it's already there, it suffers an attack instead. Okay, cool. For stance 2, we have Life Renewal. Oh no, not healing. Permanent. At the start of the round, you may remove any beneath this terrain that are in the sector with a Thornvine. If you remove at least one, this way Hydra heals half the damage it currently sustains. Okay, that's interesting. That's actually the harder side. I actually flipped to the wrong side. But so it removes one of these plants so that you can't use them to heal itself. But it's very specific because it has to have a Thornvine in there too. So I'm imagining going to get played pretty regularly. Is that plant the one that heals you? Is what I am curious. I'm going to try and find this really quick. Yes, at the start of your turn, if you're in sector with that plant, heal damage equal to your weapon level. So as long as you're in there, it's going to heal it. But this is going to then get rid of that. So you can't heal, and he's going to heal himself. What's the regular side look like? Move any of the turns of the Thornvine. Okay, same thing. Cool. Alright, and then his 3 stance is Tangle of Roots. Increase the stamina cost of movement by 1 for players in a sector of the Thornvine token. So basically, he's going to try and drop these. There's only 4 of them. So he's going to probably try and drop 1 in each sector. And then make everything just more of a pain. Get rid of your healing options. Make you have to take extra, pay extra stamina to do stuff. He's just going to make your life difficult with these. Increase the stamina cost of movement by 1 for each player in a sector with a Thornvine token. Yeah, so this is going to make your movement even harder. Then we have our objective. On 1, we have a permanent harvesting. Play 2 attacks or offensive cards. Move the Thornvine token from your sector. Okay, cool. So there's a way to at least get rid of those. Just gotta pay some attack. The harder one, though, you have to play a blue and a red. Specifically, instead of just 2 whatevers. So that'll make it a little bit trickier, but still definitely doable. Alright, let's look at his behavior cards. We're going to start off with some that trigger for aggro. Zoom in on these guys a little bit farther. Alright, the first one is we have Lush Growth. Place a Thornvine token in the aggro player sector. If there's already a Thornvine there, he suffers an attack instead. So this is why there's only 4 tokens, because you're only going to place one. If it's already there, it's going to do extra damage, or an extra effect. And then the other one is he gains struggle per player -1. Place a Thornvine in the aggro player sector, rather the one that takes damage instead. A rustle cuts through the branches of the trees. Does the monster protect the forest, or does it merely feed off its strength? Ooh. We have another aggro one, but this one has a 5. The other one, I believe, had 4. Yeah. Oh, there's a little picture there. This is another Lush Growth. So it's going to do the same thing. So yeah, it's one of the few monsters that has duplicate cards. Very few monsters have the same exact card twice. And this one does get it, but it kind of makes sense because he wants to play with those. There's only so many ways you can word that. He has a Rampage card. Poisonous Vines. Hydar gains 1 struggle per player. Each player in a sector of the Thornvine must discard the top 3 cards of their deck and suffer attack for each Venom they discarded this way. So this is doubly bad because 1, it might keep the Venom out of your hand, but you're going to suffer his attack if it does discard him. So that's could be good, could be bad, depending on your weapon level, I guess. But yeah, it's also discarding the cards means if you don't discard the Venom cards, that means you are close to either finding them in there or emptying your deck to recycle it. So it's going to get them Venom cards back to you quicker. Unless it discards them and then you take damage. The other one is the same effect. Each player discards at least... each player in a sector of the Thornvine must discard the top 3 cards of their deck. Players in sectors with a Thornvine must discard the top 3 cards. Each player that discards at least 1 Venom, this card suffers an damage. Oh, I have these backwards. That's why I'm confused. So it should be this way. This is the easier one. Must discard the top 3. If they discard at least 1, they suffer an attack. Then the harder one is this, they take an attack for each one discarded. Okay. That definitely makes more sense. His cards got swapped around. If you're in his front sector, he's going to bite you with Paralyzing Grasp. The active player cannot play any green cards in their sequence. Or, not playing a green card or sequence, that player skips their movement phase this turn unless another player discards a defense from their hand. We have, if you are targeted from not moving, possibly. Active player suffers an attack unless they discard a blue card from their hand. Boost. Active player must search their discard pile for a Venom and place it on top of their deck. Oh, that's mean. Venomous Teeth. I don't know if I read that. The harder one, active player suffers an attack unless you discard blue, and that player must search their discard. So you just get rid of the boost part of it. If you do a blue card, we're going to get a Venomous Claw. Active player suffers an attack unless they reveal a yellow from their hand. Boost, must search the discard pile for a Venom and place it on top of their deck. Yeah, this one, change it from reveal to discard, same thing. Discard a yellow card, and they must find a Venom. Now, combine these with these other ones, where they must discard the top 3 cards of their deck. Now you just put that card back on top of your deck, right? So that could definitely be bad if those trigger in a row. For red, we got red, blue, and green. I think it's going to hit every color here. Strangler plants. A tangle of barbed brambles moves beneath you. The plants slither like tentacles along the ground and tighten themselves around you, trying to swallow you. 3 boost. Player in a sector of the Thornvine token suffers an attack. Hydar then becomes vulnerable. Interesting. So you take the attack, but at least he gives you a chance to hurt him back. And then the harder one is not only boost 2, but you suffer an attack plus 2. Interesting. Alright, then we have some more attack cards, or a red, or just an offensive card. Thorned Roses. If the active player is in a sector of the Thornvine token, that player becomes threatened and suffers an attack. And then the harder one, active player in a sector becomes threatened and suffers an attack plus 1. And then we have one if you play a defense green card or a dodge card. And it's also Thorned Vine, so the same thing, becomes threatened and suffers an attack, or the harder one suffers plus 1 damage. So again, interesting, he has 2 double cards. Yeah, so this guy's kind of a pain to fight against, Hydar. His whole big thing is to be placing them thorns out, and then wherever they are, they're going to do a bunch of extra stuff to you, because it's going to trigger a lot of effects, as well as every time you play an attack, you have to pay 1 extra for it. So it's the attacking is going to be harder. So you're going to have to spend a lot of time doing his objectives here. Either the double attack or the blue and red. But again, every time you play one of these, you're going to have to pay 1 extra. So to play 2 cards, you're going to be paying extra to play them, but you need to do it to remove them thorn vines. Otherwise, you're going to be taking extra damage. But that's his whole thing, just trying to get that. And then that Venom cards are not going to help as well, because they're going to clog up your hand. You're like, oh, I have to pay for this card 1 extra. I guess I'll pay that Venom. But then you take your weapon damage. So you're hurting yourself. So it's very interesting. So it clogs up your hand. So now you have 4 cards. One of it you have to play extra to play them red to get rid of that Thornvine. You're going to have to play the Venom. Very, very interesting. Reikal is going to have a very similar idea with the Venom, but we'll see how he utilizes that differently. Alright, let's hop into him. Grab all these. Alright, our other monster in the Venom expansion is Reikal. Or Reikal? Maybe Reikal. He's a giant snake. Of course, how can you have a Venom without having a snake? He's sitting on this giant log, but look how big he is. He's coiled up here, so we're at the top. He coils like this, down into this, all the way around, wraps around again, and then comes back up. So he is very large. And again, the hunters aren't very big. The hunters are only like that big. So, like, he can easily fit a hunter right in that gaping mouth. I love the extra mandibles on there that kind of pierce out like predator-like, plus the fact they made it so you can kind of see into his mouth, which is really cool. And if we look at his picture there, like his eyeballs, his little bulbous venom sacs, plus there's the tattoos all over him, which are really neat. They kind of put them in there as a design, which is kind of good, because I don't know how else you just paint them. He doesn't have any other special things on there. He is weak to coral and feather. So water, not entirely sure why I guess a snake would be weak to water. Kind of interesting. And feather, I'm assuming again flying. Do you think like a giant feathered creature might come and pick up a snake from the lawn or whatever? I guess here the forest, but yeah, so he kind of has some of these like tattoos on his flesh there. Kind of look like vines, but yeah, I gotta see someone paint these. I think I might even try and look up to see if I can find some of the paints. And I might have to do like an extra video just to show them off. If they haven't had me on the Kickstarter page, I don't recall. All right, let's hop into his card. So he's also going to use this Venom deck. So I'm gonna quickly look at that. So here's the Venom deck, same thing. Gary Stamina, discard card from your hand. Now there's going to get 1, 2, 3, 4 for each character. The other one only had 3. He has 4 for each. So he's going to do even more Venom damage. Here's a little picture in the bottom corner. Of course, matches the backs of his cards. If I get my thumb over the way, you can see that little bulbous. I love the little pictures on these cards. He has some other extra stuff as well. So we're going to get into those, but we'll get to them when they kind of pop up. Alright, we have Stance 1 for Prologue. Doesn't do anything. 2 damage, or 2 toughness, 1 damage. Nothing too bad. Each player becomes engaged with a venomous serpent. Alright, so we're immediately going to jump into what that is. Let's look at Stance 3 quick, and then we'll see what the venomous serpents are. When revealed, all players must search their discard pile for a Venom card and place it on top of their deck. Oh boy, so he's going to find them Venoms right away. Interesting. So then we have these guys here. So we have 5 copies of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So probably 1 for each player. Just his picture on the back. Same effect for each one. Venomous Serpents. At the start of your turn, search your discard pile for a Venom card and place it on top of your deck. So what does engage with them exactly mean? Let's look at the rules. So Reikal introduces a new type of card, the Venomous Serpent card. When a Venomous Serpent engages you, take a corresponding Venomous Serpent card, place it next to your Hunter board. The ability that text only applies to you and only while you are engaged with it. To remove a Venomous Serpent, the engaged player must play a red card in their sequence without resolving either its ability text or effect. The attack does not deal any damage to Reikal. I'm going to keep saying his name different. But it allows you to eliminate the Venomous Serpent. So basically you have to play an attack and attacking. It doesn't matter how much technically damage or any effect or anything to do. You just have to play a red card to get rid of the Venomous Serpent. And then it goes away. Otherwise, it says at the start of each turn, search your discard pile for a Venom and place it on top of your deck. So you're going to probably want to get rid of those as quickly as possible. So that you don't have to keep having a Venom up on top of your deck. Otherwise, you're going to draw it your next turn. But it does essentially cost you a full card because you still have to play it for its stamina cost. And then you have to do it. And there's only 5. So you can only have 1 per each player. That's why there's 5. 1 for each of the 5 players. Cool. So we're going to set those guys off to the side. Then let's look at his Stance 2s. Or Stance 1, sorry, there's level 1s. Level 1 is, for Stance 1, you have to start around Reikal gains 1 struggle per player -1. It's Stance 2, each player becomes engaged with a Venomous Serpent. And we'll have to see if he has other cards that keep triggering those back. And then when revealed, all players must search their Venom card, discard pile for a Venom and place it on top of their deck. So I mean, this is going to probably have very similar abilities through all 3 levels. For level 2, 1 struggle per player. Stance 2. Gains 1 struggle per player. Each player becomes engaged with a Venomous Serpent. Tip that over. And for 3, yes, must search their discard pile for a Venom and place it on top of their deck. Cool. We're going to kind of speed through these because they're a lot of the same stuff. In level 3, starts with 18 toughness and 3 attack. Start of the round, 1 gains 1 struggle per player. When revealed, gains 1 struggle per player, becomes engaged with a Venomous Serpent. And then the last one is all players must search their discard pile for a Venom and place it on top of their deck. So he's going to play around dealing Venom a lot more. Where Hydar was playing with them Thorns a lot, and he might deal Venom to you, but he's not really. That happens. You get Venom, but it was kind of like, meh, if it happens, it happens. He's more playing with the Thorns. Reikal is just going to be like straight up trying to poison you constantly. That's what it definitely looks like. His first peril is Venomous Jaws. Permanent immune to blind, which means you can't block the effects of this. When a player suffers attrition damage, that player takes a Venom card from the reserve pile and places it on top of their discard pile. So at least here, you have no way of getting a Venom card until, like Hydar, I say he'll poison you each time you get a Venom card, right? So each stance ends up giving you a Venom card. Reikal doesn't give you one. He does not give you them, but you're going to get this every time you suffer attrition damage. As long as you can keep avoiding attrition damage constantly, you could potentially not get any Venom. But I'm sure he's going to have other ways to do it. The harder one suffers attrition. Player places a Venom for the reserve, places it on top of their discard. Alright, in stance 2, he has Serpentarium. At the end of the round, each player engages a venomous serpent suffers an attack. Oh boy. So during stance 2, luckily it's not permanent, but you're going to want to definitely get rid of that. Then he also has adds in Infuriate 2, 6, and 9. So during his turn when he's upkeep, when he's gaining struggle, each player cumulatively finds out how many aggro are on all their cards. If they have a combined amount of 2, 6, or 9, he'll gain either 1, 2, or 3 extra struggle. Cool. Then for level 3, we have Lethal Venom, immune to blind. When a player is instructed to take a Venom card from the reserve, but the reserve is empty, that player is KO'd. Oh, that's mean, right? So right now, this is the only, this is always out, so, you have to avoid attrition damage. You have to be playing defense cards to avoid attrition damage. Otherwise, when he gets to 3, he's going to KO you. If this is the only way he can have Venom out, that's fine. Because then at least you can kind of, I have 3 of my 4. You know that you have to play defense cards every single turn. But yeah, then if he gets some Venomous Serpents, then you have to play attack cards, right? Otherwise, you're going to keep taking damage from them. Oh boy, that is nuts, right? Yeah, because you'll have to keep playing an attack card to get rid of one of them without any extra effects. That means of your 5 cards, it means if you have a Venomous Serpent, you have to discard, possibly, unless you have one that costs 0, possibly spend 1 to 2 cards to get rid of the Venomous Serpents, so you're not taking crap from them. Oh boy, that is mean. What's the other side? It can't be much worse. Just adds Infuriate to it. 2, 6, and 9. Oh boy. Alright, well, let's see if we have anything with our objective to help us. Hit the Venom stacks. Permanent. When they're 1 per player counters on this card, Reikal suffers 2 wounds, then remove this card from the game. Okay, well, that's helpful. It's permanent, so this is one of the things where it can last forever, essentially, right? You don't have to, it comes out at stance 1, but you don't have to activate it as soon as you can. You might want to hold off until, hey, he's getting stance 3, I can't worry about that Venom stuff, so I have to take him out quickly. The question is, how do you put counters on this card? Because there's nothing that says how to put a counter on there. So we'll see what happens with that. The other side is he suffers a wound and then remove this. So the harder one, he just gets weaker. I was hoping it might be something once you destroy this, remove the Venom cards from the game or remove his lethal Venom. That would have been pretty cool too. Alright, for his behaviors, we're going to have if he rotates, which is usually a tail effect. It's not. It's retractable fangs. Each player in the front sector suffers an attack unless they discard a defense from their hand That player suffers an attack. This way may take a Venom card from the reserve pile. Oh, suffers an attack, takes a Venom from the reserve pile, and places it on top of their discard. Oh boy, so there we have that thing where like, hey, if that was the only way, that peril was the only way to get attrition damage, that's fine, it's easy to do. But then this is also going to make that hard. So you have to discard a defense so you don't take that damage. That also means it's one less defense for your attrition dodging. Oh boy, this guy's going to be a pain. Unless each player in the front sector suffers an attack unless they discard specifically a green card. That's even worse. It's a green one specifically. Oh boy. I'm not looking forward to fighting this guy. We have some red cards. If we play a red attack, we are going to have Serpent's Coil. The active player suffers an attack unless they have a defense in their sequence. Okay, that's not too bad, because you're going to probably want to be playing those anyhow. The harder one is the same thing, except there's a boost enhancement. The active player must have 2 defense in their sequence instead of 1. Still doable, but a little bit harder. If you are in front of him, he's going to bite you. I'm sure he's going to bite you. Ooh, no, he's just going to hiss at you. Hissing. Reikal gains struggle minus per player -1. Each player suffers an attack for each Venom card they have in their hand. Okay, that's very dodgeable. Like, if you just happen to not have Venom in your hand, later the game goes, it's going to be harder it's going to be. In other words, just gain 1 struggle per player. Oh no, an instant one. This will automatically trigger no matter what. It's going to be Quick Bite. Nothing escapes the glassy black eyes of the monster, which unpredictably launches itself towards its prey, jaws open wide with lightning speed. Boost 1. The aggro player suffers an attack unless they reveal a green card from their hand. And then the upgraded version is the same thing, but they must reveal 2 green cards. You're going to want to be defensive against this guy. At the end of the attrition phase, we have Toxicity. Player in a sector with a swamp terrain must discard the top card of the deck. Each player that discards a Venom this way suffers an attack. Even the air is unbreathable, permeated with dense toxic fumes given off by the putrescent swamp. Ooh. Oh, again, discard is not always good, but it might be fairly avoidable. And then each player in a swamp must discard top 2 cards. So that's not too bad. Some of these are kind of avoidable. Another attrition one. He wants to play this attrition. The Serpent's Embrace. The aggro player is captured unless they discard a green card from their hand. Reikal coils its massive body around its prey to crush and suffocate it in its vice-like grip. Boost 2 enhancement. If the aggro player is captured, they suffer an attack. Oh, that's never good. What does the harder side do? And I'll review what captured does. Unless they discard a green card. So the same thing. And the boost is cheaper. What does capture do? Because we haven't seen that too many times. I think only like 2 other guys, 1 or 2 other guys have that. When you're captured, perform the following steps. Discard all cards from your hand and your sequence. You place your hunter on the monster board. End your turn, skip any end of phase steps. So at least your attrition stuff doesn't hit. Pass to the next player. So basically you lose the rest of your turn. Well captured. Skip the consume phase at the start of your round. You cannot draw cards and be the target of any game effects until your next turn. At the start of your next turn, perform the following steps. Place your hunter in the front sector. Draw up to your hand size. Suffer damage equal to your weapon level. Discard the top 2 cards of your deck. You can attack card or an offensive card is discarded this way. Play your turn normally, otherwise skip your turn. So basically he captures you. You lose a full turn. Beginning your next turn, you start back over, take some damage, and possibly get a play again, or, which is kind of like you play a weapon card or an attack card, it's like you hit him and that's how you escaped, so you're dropping out of him, or he throws you, essentially, and that's why you skip your turn. Yes, you can't, if only 1 player is standing and that player becomes captured, but okay, so, if a second player be captured, The other one just suffers damage to their weapon level instead. Yes, that's cool though. It's a neat little effect there to capture a guy. Awesome. I like it. It's a neat idea. It's good that they didn't like overuse it and have every monster have a capture effect, which is kind of cool. We have Primal Instinct. Reikal gains +1 per each player's struggle. If the active player has 2 or more Venom cards in their discard pile, he gets +1 attack till the end of turn. Interesting. The harder one is if you have 1 or more Venom cards, he gains +2 till the end of turn. So less cards for more damage. Awesome. If you move, what is he going to do to you? He is going to Whipping. The active player suffers an attack unless at the top of their discard pile is a defense card. So this could be very, like, make sure on your last turn, always play your defense last for attrition if you can. That definitely just protects you from that. But again, if you know this. And then the last one, unless it's a green card. Alright, then he has aggro on there. And I think he has 2 versions of these cards. So we'll see if they're the exact same or not. But there is a Venom Sacs. The active player may reveal 2 red cards from their hand to place a counter on the hit the Venom Sacs objective card. Okay, so that's what we couldn't figure out how to do that. 1 per player. You have to wait until a specific card comes up. Discard any other behavior cards with the aggro reaction and replenish its corresponding behavior slot with the top card of the behavior deck. If hit the Venom Sac objective has been removed from the game, cancel the effect of this card and remove it. Okay, cool. So this is how we're going to do it, and the other one is going to probably be the same thing. Does it change on harder difficulty? No, the exact same thing. So yeah, basically you have to wait until this is out, playing aggro card to basically reveal his Venom Sacs, play 2 attack cards to hit it. You put 1 counter on there, and then you have to put 1 per player on there to be able to use to do a wound or 2 wounds, depending on which one. So, like I did say with that card, and then we do have, we have 2 more of the exact same thing. Same thing. So you could have 2 of them out, so you have a good chance of doing it, but it does say if you play 1, the other one gets discarded, so you can't do it twice in 1 turn. But yeah, that's kind of interesting, because I did mention, like you might want to save this till later in the game, but the thing is, if you save this, it says you may reveal 2 cards, you don't have to. But yeah, if you save this till later and you keep trying to save it, then you have to hope this card comes up at a certain time and you can activate it, right? Activating an aggro card shouldn't be too terribly difficult. But yeah, if you wait until he's at the end, it wouldn't be very bad. It's like, right, where's his... Yeah, so by the time he turns to... Like, in, like, level 1, he only has 3 health left, or he turns to... In level 3, he has 4 health left. Also, you can deal, like, 1 or 2 wounds with that card. That'd be great. But then you might be sitting there waiting for this last one to come. And the thing is, because then you have to do it. So, like, when that card pops up, you want to do that when you have to be able to activate it, right? Because if you can't, for whatever, you don't have 2 red when this pops up, then you're in trouble. Okay, that's pretty interesting. So then the last thing we have in here is we have 4 wound cards. 1 for each player, so they're adding an extra wound card in there. I'm guessing just because there might be additional things, possibly in the campaign stuff, or other things that just needed characters that have a 4th wound, or a 3rd wound card. So we did get those as well. Alright, so that is all we have for the monsters and all that. So now we are going to head into campaign spoilers. Not in the booklet, but we're going to look at the cards. We have the unlocked cards, the special item cards. But I just want to give you a spoiler warning. If you don't want to see what these cards are, you'd rather be surprised when you draw a card number, 33, and find out what it is. Go ahead, shut off the video. Thank you guys for joining me. Hope you guys check out the rest of my videos. See you later. If you'd like to see the campaign extra cards. We're going to hop into them right now. First thing we're going to look at are 2 more cards for the Awakening, the big boss of the game. So he has instinct behavior cards, which are cards that are based off the other monsters. So you just use some of their abilities, which is a really fun idea. So we have this one here, which it's at the end of the attrition phase, which is for Reikal, which is Serpent's Coil. The player who currently sustains the most damage in the rear sector or a flank sector, that player is captured unless they discard a card from their hand, a green card from their hand. Yes, it's a take on his card. It has his little symbol up there to show it. That's neat, because I don't think the Awakened had any other way to capture guys. So I love that they're adding a way to have that capture effect into a new character. I was actually thinking that, like, when I saw the capture, I was like, oh, I think only like 1 or 2 other guys can do that. It's like, it'd be neat if they could make like an additional expansion, right, to add more cards into the characters, so you could like change up and give them some abilities that other characters might have, or utilize some of the other stuff. Like maybe some of the core characters could utilize some of like the swamps or the ice, or they might utilize some of that type of stuff. That'd be kind of a neat idea. And that they kind of might do it with the nightmare cards, which actually lets you play a harder difficulty where they do get new behavior cards. But I don't know if they interact with like expansion stuff or not. And then the other ones on an aggro card is Lush Growth for Hydar. Each player may discard a offensive card from their hand or remove a Thornvine token from their sector. Then place a Thornvine token in the active player sector unless the player discards an offensive card from their hand. If there's already a Thornvine in that sector, active player suffers an attack. It's kind of neat. So again, we're adding the capture thing with the one guy. This is adding Thornvines in there, which make your attacks harder to do. Like the Awakening needs more help there. But yeah, so each player may discard one to remove a thorn from it. Otherwise, you're going to place a Thornvine in this token of the active player sector unless the player discards it. There's already a Thornvine. So this is kind of interesting, right? Because it's one of like, I think you'll have like 20 or 22 behavior cards. So it comes up the first time. You're going to place a Thornvine in their sector unless they discard a card from their hand. They could opt not to. If there's already a Thornvine there, if they didn't get rid of it, then they have to. But before they get a chance to get rid of it. So if the first time it comes up, they're going to possibly place one if they don't want to get rid of it. Maybe like, nah, we'll deal with one. But then when it comes up, anyone can discard a card to get rid of it. Otherwise, someone's going to suffer. So it's not going to hit that often. So it's kind of interesting. It's a neat way, like, Hydar uses the things, but he's placing them constantly, where the Awakening's going to rarely ever get one. And then the first time they can dodge it, and if they dodge it, then this card's useless again until the next time it comes up. Even if they let the card be in there, as soon as it's played, possibly anyone there has a chance to get rid of it right away before it even does anything. So, kind of interesting. Cool that they added it, but interesting. Alright, then we're going to have our item cards. So, we're going to have number 30 here, which is going to be Dagger Heart, which is a legendary, so it counts as all different elements. When you suffer attrition damage, deal 3 damage for each offensive card in your sequence. Interesting. So, if you want to go away from playing defensive cards to just playing attack, you're probably going to take attrition damage, but you could potentially do a bunch of extra damage that way. That's neat. Serpent Belt. That's a neat looking belt. After you play a red card, if you paid for it with a green, increase the damage of the attack by 5. That's cool. Neat way to do that. Void Stares is like the spidery eyes, or maybe the snake eyes. Legendary where your health is critical, so less than half, reduce any attack you suffer by 1. So not the best, but again, when you're talking about maybe 5 damage, 8 damage, and it's going down 1, it's gonna make a difference after a couple of times. And then the last one is we get 2 copies of the Potion Vitalis. Consume each time you deal damage this round heal 2. So again, this could be a different option. If you like a healing potion, you could potentially heal more than the regular potion if you do a bunch of damage. But you'd have to plan that very well, and that also depends on the reactions that hit. Cool. So that is our set. I lost my starter book. Oh, there it is. Alright, so that is the Venom Expansion for Primal The Awakening. Hope you guys are enjoying these videos. Check out the rest if for some reason you haven't or you missed one. We still have, if you're following the videos in order, we have one more main element expansion, the Feather Expansion, that we can get into the Fun Hunters and eventually the Nightmare Box. See you guys there. Bye.